Hello, it's Doris with Aldi Books, and I am here to do Friday reads. I'm very pleased with myself. I kind of hit my reading goals for the first time in a really long time. Much of that thanks to Shorty September, hosted by Sean and Bert at Pastori Time and Heather at Soggy Expat Book Nerd. So thanks, guys, for the motivation. It was lovely and great fun. I was so excited to get home and relax that I put my pajamas on and then remembered that I needed to film a video. Oops. I don't think it's the first time that you've seen me in my pajamas, however. I don't need a phone call, so bye-bye phone call. Anyway, I'm just going to dive right into these books because there is quite a stack here. And yeah, they were almost all really good. So first up, I wanted to talk about the Book Naturalist pick for September. That was The Plants Messiah by Carlos Magdalena. And this was ghost written by Matthew Biggs. So Carlos Magdalena is, I would refer to him as English as a second language learner. So Spanish is his original mother tongue, and he now teaches, well, he doesn't teach, he does teach. He now works for Kew Botanical Gardens in the UK, which is a huge botanical garden, museum, society, institution. Really enjoyed learning about Kew Botanical Gardens and Carlos, his life growing up, learning about nature from his parents. His dad, they bought a farm, a finca on the outskirts of a city, and would go there on the weekends. And his mom was big into organic gardening before organic gardening was cool. And he was the youngest child that really, excuse me, I've got an eyeball itch. Sorry, I couldn't even think. Yeah, he was the youngest and really got involved in nature. So yeah, I learned so much about, how he as a young adult kind of found his way. So that was neat to me, that he didn't have formal education and yet he gained such prominence in the field over time. And his just enthusiasm for plants just warmed my heart. You guys know how I feel about wildflowers. So this hit me in all the warm, fuzzy places. Just his enthusiasm. I mean, stop the car. I saw a wildflower. I can so relate to that. Oh, it's just delightful. The writing in this was not, it was just serviceable in spots. And I skim read now and then, which was totally fine. The parts that really resonated with me were more scientific, very heavy on the botany. And I just loved his stories of going to, Peru and Australia, all over the world, in pursuit of wildflowers and learning about these unique and very rare species. I'm gushing because I loved the material in this. So it's a perfect example of, it doesn't always have to be about the writing, because this was great. It was science heavy with the botany. So, I can totally see where that might not be your thing if you're in search of more, I like pictures too, sorry. If you're in search of more of a memoir, this really wasn't exactly that. It was somewhat, but it was more about the science and botany. I just have to share them all because, they're fabulous. So yeah, he did teach. That was another thing I really appreciated about this, like learning about Kew Botanical Garden and their emphasis on, you know, not only saving rare species, but going into communities and teaching the local people how to care for their environment. Oh, that's his little boy. I think it was his son. As a way to kind of help combat global warming. I appreciated that, you know, it wasn't all about, you know, the big countries ruining it for the rest of the world. He mentioned things that local communities are doing to cause global warming and practical ways that they could reverse their own trends. So I got a lot out of that book. I really enjoyed it. So then for round 2 of Shorty September, I read Aya, Levinyap City, this by Marguerite Abouet and Clemence Auberier. This is the second in a duology, and I have a vlog dedicated to this. I found it absolutely charming and delightful. So you have the young women in here that you met in the first book. And the first book was more a coming of age in their late teen, early 20s. And this is, you know, even more established. And I just love the light touch that the author has with these characters and addressing really deep issues in society with sex and relationships, but in such a light-handed way. I just found it charming and delightful. I highly recommend, if you are into graphic novels, this I think would be a must read. And then Nikki Grimes' Ordinary Hazards, a memoir. Nikki Grimes is a poet that I read quite often. A lot of her work is focused on middle grades. I just find her very thought-provoking, but also approachable. None of her work is ever over my head. Like I get it and I engage in it with it, and I really enjoy her. I follow her on Twitter as well. But this is her memoir. She writes in all different sorts of poetry styles. This one is very poetic, somewhat free verse maybe. You know, I'm not sure of all that. Some is like longer like this. But this one is actually a memoir of her younger years. This one has pictures too. Let me share. But I just left this. She grew up, I think she's maybe 10 or so years older than me. So, I mean, I think some of her, you know, civil rights movement in here. She grew up, I think this was in New York. Lord, I'm sorry. I forget things. But what really stuck with me with this is all of the things that she went through. Her mother was schizophrenic at times and an alcoholic. She had a stepfather that sexually abused her, and, you know, just struggling to get by and get ahead in life. And just the way she always clung to her writing and how that really empowered her and, you know, got her through and made her successful. Like her dedication to her craft and the love that she found there through words. So very fabulous. And then I read, this is also in a dedicated blog, as is this one. So Tambourines to Glory, Langston Hughes. This is his second novel. I think the first was Not Without Laughter. I have not read it. This one was also a play, and I think from the introduction, you can actually read the introduction in this one. It doesn't spoil the plot at all, which is, really nice for a classic. This is a modern classic, a Harlem Renaissance piece. And yes, this was fun. The writing is actually really beautiful. I was surprised that it wasn't, like, I kind of, with Langston Hughes being such a prominent poet, I expected it to be more poetic, and it's really nice language, but it's more simple than I would have thought. But this is centered in the church, the African American church community in New York City. And these two women, one is like, one's a sinner and one's a saint, okay? One's a city girl, the sinner, cliche, and the saint is more of a southern country girl who's moved to the big city. So she has a teenage daughter living with grandma back in the South that she wants to bring to the city, but she feels like she needs to make money and be successful first to provide a nice home for her. So her friend, the sinner, hatches this plot to start their own street corner church. So they do, and they start collecting money and become really successful at it. So escapades ensue, and yeah, really, really fun. And the thing I got most out of this was very much a sense of time and place with the Harlem Renaissance in New York City. So yeah, really fun reading. The end is quite dramatic, so be prepared for that. But yeah, thanks so much, Patrice, for another great read. I really loved that. And then Thunderstruck by Eric Larson. And I read this with Patrice and Heidi from My Reading Life, and Karen from Run Right Reads. And we are the Eric Larson fan club. We just love Eric Larson. So this is my 5th Eric Larson. I only have one more of his prominent works to read. So I'm going to be kind of sad when I've read his 6-pack. But this was fabulous. At first, I was a little hesitant because the premise, it's not a premise, this is nonfiction. The setup for this one is Marconi, who develops wireless communication, and a really famous murder mystery that I had never heard about, with a little bit of the pop culture seance movement sprinkled in. So it was a little bit dry at first, and you're wondering, if it's going to really come together and be something, and they seemed like disparate threads. But that is something that Eric Larson really shines. Like, he researches the heck out of his topics, and he is just the master of pulling these seemingly unrelated stories together and really telling a unique tale. And again, the sense of time and place here is fabulous. This is, I think, the late 1800s, early 1900s, so you get a little precursor to World War I sprinkled in as well. There's a cameo appearance of Winston Churchill at the end, so we loved that. And yeah, I think the shining point in here for me was with Marconi, and how he trained himself. He didn't have, a science background. He just had a vision for wireless, like his imagination, like science, you have to have an imagination to see into the future, and he just pursued it. He was dedicated to it. He never wavered in his belief in the technology or himself, and he succeeded. Like, we kind of owe our obsession with the internet to this guy. So yeah, it was just so neat. And the murder mystery, oh my gosh. Yeah. So if you guys haven't read Eric Larson, like, what are you waiting for? He is amazing. And then I finished up the month with Sarah Hall's Madame Zero. So this is a short story collection. It has quite a nice earthy vibe to it, a little bit of mystery sprinkled in, otherworldly sort of. The three stories that I really connected with are the first one, Mrs. Fox, which I think is her very famous one. I read that in one of those short story books that I read with Sean. I forget the publisher with those, but I had already read that one, so I did not reread it once I realized what it was. Very much enjoyed that. And then, you know, there were a couple interesting, like, psychological ones. One was actually a case study with a psychologist with this boy that had been raised in a cult movement and how disconnected he was with society. Another had a, oh gosh, you know, when I try to think of a word, it doesn't come to me. Handmaid's Tale feel to it. There was another one that was very Cormac McCarthy, was it The Road kind of thing, post-apocalyptic kind of vibe. That one ended abruptly. Like, it was really good, but then it was over and nothing happened. So there was that. A couple other ones, I didn't engage with them at the beginning and just kind of DNF'd them because I wasn't feeling it. And then the last one, Evie. That one I think was erotica. And I was, you know, making it. And then it was turning into a menage a trois, and I just decided I didn't need to make it that far. So I was finished. So there's that, Madame Zero. So I guess that was a 50-50 for me. 3 good ones and 3 that I DNF'd. And then final is Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species. Pictures. This is like show and tell today. So this is just beautiful. It's a picture book. It's very much a picture book for children. Just the basics of Darwin's ideas and his, you know, early career. I would say this would be really good for maybe 3rd grade. So upper elementary, 3rd through 5th. Because it's pretty advanced information, but just, you know, bits of it. And it is really, really beautiful. Horses, like, who can resist horses? And this book originally was crowdfunded. I forget what that's called. When you self-publish that way. But then it was highly successful, and she got a publisher. So this is put out by Crown Books for Young Readers, New York. So there, beautiful, beautiful book. So yeah, September was successful. Let's hope October is as well. You know, I've got more of Hispanic Heritage Month left. I did, the book Naturalist was actually Hispanic Heritage Month read. And Victober. And yeah, so TBR talk coming tomorrow. So look forward to that if you're interested. And back to my Friday relaxing. Thanks so much for watching, and I will be back soon. Bye.